evening and welcome. This is Whole and Beautiful. I am Angela Oliphant, your host, and I am so glad that you all have joined me for another night of information, revelation, and change. And as you all can see tonight, I have a very special guest with me that is coming in and share. She's going to share some information with you all tonight about her. I am doing a just women in history for this month of March, where we talk about women in history. And we were just talking about it before we came on, because I look at women in history as women that are making an impact. We may not see them out on the forefront, but they are making impact in other people's lives. And they may be that person that talked to that person or that shared with that person. And then you see this person that's out on this platform and they're going places and doing things, and you never would know that they sat down and they talked to this other person and that they were their inspiration to go and do what they're going to do. So I had on last week Miss Candace McEwen, and she came in and she talked a little bit about what she's doing. And this week I have none other than Miss Andrea Hines. She has so many different titles, y'all. And it's like she operates well in all of them. I want to welcome her to Whole and Beautiful. This is the first time I get to interview you.
I know, I'm scared. I don't know what you come up with, Miss Angie. But I am honored. I'm glad to be with you, and just I've been watching your show grow and the things that you're doing. So I'm really honored to be a part of it and be on this side for a change.
Yes, to be on the other side. I was thinking about today, and really I thought about it right before I had asked you to come on, about the very first like mock interview I did with you. Mm-hmm. And we did the interview, and that's when I was doing the radio piece.
Right.
And it went so good. We was like, we should have recorded this. And from that point till now, I've been like, oh, I gotta get her on here so I can talk to her. Because everything went so well. But I know a little bit about you. I want you to just share with our listeners about who you are, and just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and all that other good stuff, and what you're doing.
All righty then. Well, I am originally from Washington, D.C., and I moved here to North Carolina with a job offer. And I had never been to North Carolina before, had no plans to ever move to North Carolina, but I knew it was a God move. I knew it was a God move because everything significant that I was doing at the time in DC, I was singing with a group. I had just resigned from that. I had a theater company. I had just sat down from that. And so systematically, so many doors had closed, that I really believed that God was drawing me here. I didn't know why. I didn't know what was going to happen, what I was going to do, not knowing anybody at all. And I just took the leap. I made the jump and came to North Carolina, and everything, I always tell people, everything in my life shifted. When I came here, my writing style changed. I started painting, believe that. Hey there, Josie.
Hi, Josie.
just all kinds of things were different. There was a calm. I'll put it that way, a calm to my life. And for the first time, I wasn't taking care of anybody but me. So my daughter didn't come with me. So I was at the gym every day, girl. I was walking every day. My diet thing was on point. I was just taking care of me. It felt good. It felt good.
Oh, wow. You said at the when you were saying that everything was switching, everything was changing. You said you were part of a singing group. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, actually, I had two singing journeys.
Okay.
Started singing. I sang my first solo when I was 3 years old in church,
Wow.
and I was a part of a singing duo called the AG Express at one point, and sang in clubs and did different events and affairs, singing pop music. And as soon as we got a manager, we realized that all of us were had very different mindsets about what we wanted to do and how far we wanted to take the group and all of that. So we eventually, split up. And that was when I was still in Washington. So when I moved here and I was part of a choir, and that choir director started a group called New Direction, and we were from different churches, different spiritual backgrounds. And we came together just to make a joyful noise. And we were, traveling and singing and doing all of those things. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. But as things go, people begin to get different, shift in their mindsets about the purpose for which they do things. And sometimes they're able to bring things together, and sometimes they just drift apart, and that was a drift apart. But I'm thankful for all of those things. I'm thankful for the people that I met along the way and the opportunities that we had to sing, and also in my IBM career, I did something which was called a skit player. And when they had major conferences, they would actually do kind of an ongoing storyline to open up the conference in the morning. And I had auditioned for that. And that was a dream come true.
Wow.
And sometimes you have dreams and you don't even know you have them.
Right.
Things that you think you want to do, but they seem so far out of your reach that you think, well, that won't happen for me, and that will never happen for me. But I managed to get a slot, and they sent us to New York. And we worked with the choreographer there, and we recorded all of our music there, and then performed before 5,000-6,000 people, something like that, which for me at the time was absolutely huge.
Yeah.
It was huge. And they and I was a secretary. That was my job. My job was as a secretary, but I was able to be a skit player, and we performed in Anaheim and San Diego and New Orleans, and just, it was great, just a great opportunity. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Did you ever consider or think about like Broadway, or think about something larger than that, of going in that direction?
That's interesting, because I think if I had come along at a time when they had more high schools for the performing arts, I may have. I may have. But, I came along at a time where your choices were, you either going to be an educator, you're going to be a secretary. But the singing on the Broadway thing
It's not going to happen.
was not part of the picture at all. Not at all. So, and when I was in college, I was going for early childhood development. I thought I was going to be a kindergarten teacher. And I look at little people now and I think, what made me think I want to be a kindergarten teacher? I will never, ever know. But it seemed like a good idea at the time. That's one of those things that seemed like a good idea.
Yeah. Until it's like you go back and you look at it, you're like, oh, yes. What was I thinking? Oh, man. You already went into like another question that I had for you, was that because I know you had worked at different places and different companies and stuff over the years. Is there like one thing that you look back and say, I'm glad I had the opportunity, like that particular job or that particular place just stuck out for you And then maybe like an opportunity, like you were talking about with the IBM, you got that opportunity. With any other jobs, did you get any other opportunities where you're like, man, I'm glad I took that particular job?
I never I talk to people now, and I say that you are so blessed to have a career and career choices. I didn't have a career choice. I was a single mother, and I needed a job. And the first
Yes.
job I got was the job that I took, and that was in a day where people looked for stability in employment. You know, you got a job and you stayed on that job until you retired. You know, everybody would laugh about your good government job. Girl, get you a good government job. Stay on that job until you
Yes.
retire. That is not the case now. I mean, people look to see, they look at your resume and they want to know what things you have done and where you have moved and why did you move from one job to another, and shows your creativity. So they don't look at it from a stability standpoint at all. So I stayed. My first job was in banking when I wasn't working for my father. My father owned his own business, and he was a jeweler and a watch repairman, which was very unusual for an African American at that particular time. I would have taken on the business when he decided to close, but that was a time when watches were not run by cells and batteries.
Okay.
They had mainsprings and hairsprings and tiny little parts and pieces. And my hands sweat so much that I could not put the pieces together because they would rust because of the moisture in my hands. So I wasn't able to take over the business for him when he closed. But I stayed in banking for almost 10 years. And if I ever hated a job, that, my friend, was the one. I,
Oh,
as long as I was on the administrative side, I did um, different things in administration. I was fine.
right.
But when they put me in the branch and
Yeah.
I had to deal with unhappy customers, and I know you know what I'm talking about,
Yes,
being a banker
ma'am.
yourself, and I just thought, if I can get out of here, oh boy, I'll be a happy camper. So,
Oh,
so from an employment standpoint, IBM was where I learned leadership and management, and just how business and the corporate system works.
yeah.
And in the process of that, got to do something that I never even saw as possible on my radar. So yeah, that's probably where my greatest employment joy came.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. Hi to Lynette Hines. She joined in with us, and Francina.
Hey
Thank you.
guys.
And Victoria, thank you all for joining in tonight. We are talking to Miss Andrea. I call her Miss A. She's Elder Hines. She's Dr. Hines. She's author Andrea Hines.
Dr. Mom. Some people call me
Yes,
Dr. Mom.
Dr. Mom. She is a life coach also, guys.
That's right. Yes, I am.
So it's so many things that she is doing, that she has done, and we would not be able to talk about every single thing. I'm trying to give y'all some highlights about her and who she is. She is an awesome person. She is, and
Thank you,
I
Angie.
appreciate her being here. Hello from St. Thomas, the Virgin Islands. Thank you for joining us tonight and being a part of Whole and Beautiful. Miss A, I wanted to ask you
Mhm.
this though. Um, Looking at your life and looking at yourself, what are like four things that you would say that inspire you about you?
Oh, that inspire me about me.
Yeah, that you think, Oh, I do that well. I like you applaud yourself, because a lot of times we don't applaud ourselves.
Okay,
We look at other people.
I got you. Okay. Uh, thing one, thing one would be writing. Thing one would be writing, um, because I know that it is my connection to the Father.
Wow.
So writing would be the one thing that I applaud myself on, and hearing Him so that I can write His words, and seeing the transition that has come through the writing and through being obedient to what He wants me to put down. So writing would absolutely be at the top of the list. And the second thing would be speaking,
Mm,
because I find there are a lot of people who can write, but who cannot speak well. They're not comfortable speaking. And then there are people who are comfortable speaking, but who cannot write.
yeah.
And he's blessed me to be able to do both. And I'm grateful for that. So that's one. That's two. Um, three, and this is something that people have said to me, and it is something that I always smile when I think about it, because it hasn't always been who I am, and that is calm. That I bring people a sense of calm and a sense of safety. And I remember telling a friend of mine that I said, my boss said that she just likes it when I'm in the office, because she
Yeah.
said things are just, when you're there, it's just your presence, and things are calm and they go smoothly and all that. And he laughed and he said, "Who was she talking about again?" I said, "What? She was talking about me." Needless to say, there had been some transforming in
Yes.
my journey. And let me see, I don't know what would a fourth thing be? Um, Probably the ability to make people feel safe.
Yeah.
And that helps me in my coaching practice, because people need, more than anything, they need the safe space.
Yes.
And they can talk about the things they need to talk about, where they can open up, where they won't feel judged, where they can get a better sense of self. So I think that would be probably the fourth thing, would be the coaching piece. And
That is awesome. Welcome. Shalom to Israel. Israel
yes, I
is
saw
on
that.
with us on tonight.
Yes.
And that is a blessing. Thank you for joining in. We are so happy that you're here. Oh man. Um, with the we talked about you. I want you to share with us now, like your top five women in history that you feel have made a difference and made like an impact on your life. Somebody,
Um, Top five women. There are
yes,
so
there's
many
so
women.
many,
There's so
so
many women
many.
in history. There the Shirley Chisholms, and the women who have been first. The first
Right.
one to do this, the first one to do that. Those who made great impact in civil rights. Civil rights movement, the Rosa Parks of the time, the great writers, Sojourner Truth, and even Anne Frank. Uh,
Yeah.
her impactful diary in her life during the Holocaust. But I can do this in sets of three. There are
Okay.
two sets
Two
of
sets.
three.
Okay. Okay.
That puts me at six. That that I didn't really know about, who made history, but whose stories have had an impact on me. And even very, very recently, the first one was the three women at Nassau,
Wow.
the mathematicians, the hidden figures
Yes.
story. Um, for them to excel in an area that was not necessarily one that women usually ventured into, and to overcome the odds that they had to overcome in order to continue, uh,
Yes.
was was just, you know, when I see things like that or hear things like that, I'm always tempted to say, could you have done that? Would you
Wow.
have been able to withstand that? You know, would you have been able to? And I'm taking it from the movie, which I don't know whether it was real life at all, but could you have come up from your desk and run a mile to go to the bathroom,
Yeah.
come back, and then not say anything about it?
Right.
Sit down and go to work? Could you have done that? So when I think of those three women, I think of the tenacity. I think of their brilliance in the field that they were in. I think of their, you know, willingness to do whatever it took to see beyond themselves,
Yes.
and say, you know, I am a part of something much greater than what I'm actually doing right here. And the issue of being prepared,
Yes.
seeing what's coming and being prepared to be a part of it, as opposed to sitting back and saying, no, child, they ain't paying me for that. I'm not gonna do that. That's not my story. So the three of them, and I think they were, I know Katherine Johnson, Mary Jackson, and I think the other one was Dorothy Vaughan. Um, so those three.
Yes.
The other three were the three children, now grown, now adults, who integrated the school, an elementary school, on the same day that Ruby Bridges did.
Wow.
And we never hear about them.
No, we don't.
We never hear about them. And they are Leona Tate, Gail Etienne, I think her name was, and Tessie Prevost. They were 6 years old as well.
Wow.
They desegregated in elementary school just blocks away from the one that Ruby Bridges did. And their story was when they went to the school and got into the classroom that day, one of them said they watched the students walk out one by one by one by one.
Wow.
And that entire school cleared. No students were there. The teachers were there because they had to be.
Yes.
But that whole time, the whole year, nobody was there. They went, they were educated, and they took it. How at 6?
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you do that?
At
How do you
6.
do that at 6 years old? And now I think it's about 62 years later, they have bought that building, they have
Wow.
bought that school, and they've turned it into an education center.
Wow.
And they said
That
they
is
don't
amazing.
hold anything, while they wondered why the spotlight was on Ruby and they were never talked about. They
Yes.
didn't, you know, they didn't have any ill will towards her or anything like that. But again, tenacity, you know, through the years. Okay, school is over. That 6 year old period is over. But that stuff that you carry, that stuff that
Yes.
you have, and you have a choice as to what you do with that. You know, you can buy the building and turn it into an education center,
Mm-hmm.
or you can get mad and be mad at Ruby for the rest of your life. You know,
Yes.
choices that you make because of the things that happen to you. So those two sets of three um, are just, whenever I think of their stories and think of what they went through, it gives, there's just a level of hope, and
Yes.
a level of pride in what we can accomplish. And the fact that these people were just doing what they do, being who they are,
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
And
That is awesome though. I love that story. Now you're gonna have me researching when I get off.
you have to. It's really, really amazing. Um,
Yes.
and I thought, boy, not only do I wonder why these people hate me, I wonder why they're not paying any attention to me. Nobody.
Right.
The
Right.
media
Nobody.
about me like they're talking about Ruby. They're not, you know, talking about the fact that, we were in the same place, the same
Yes. A
blocks.
block away.
Weren't in another town. They weren't in
Right.
another
They're in the same place.
the same place, undergoing the same thing, the same
Wow.
thing, but coming out strong and coming out determined to do something that would help people understand education and what happened in education. They're called the McDonough Three. McDonough Three, and yeah, it's recent that they were highlighted because they had just bought the building. Up to then, I see Francina said it. She didn't know this story. I didn't know it either, and that I think is the key thing when you were talking
Yes.
about women in history. There are so many stories that we don't know.
Yeah, the untold stories that we don't even hear
Yes,
about.
yes, that do amazing
Yes.
things. But through programs like Whole and Beautiful,
We find out these things. And it transitions really good to my next thing. And I wanted to ask you, did, did you experience any of oh man, how do you say that? Any like discrimination or anything as you were growing up? Did you experience any of those things that you just talked about?
not to that degree. Not to
Okay.
that degree. We were in a place, in a space where I knew there were certain places that we couldn't go, and certain there, there was a playground right across the street that I wasn't allowed to go to, that I wasn't allowed to play over there, and things like that. And I think maybe I I saw it more, or yeah, I'll put it that way. I saw it more um, when I was older, not in terms so much as things that happened to me that were like, desegregating a school or integrate anything like that, but watching what happened to my father,
Okay.
because he was one of the very few African American um, watchmakers anywhere at that time. And when I would see pictures, there'd be all these people lined up, and he was always in the back. It's always like he wasn't a part.
Yeah.
And how he was treated. He came up in the Navy Yard as a janitor, but he always wore a white shirt. He was always dressed. He was always, clean. And one of the gentlemen who worked there took an interest in him and began to teach him watchmaking. And
Wow.
things went very well. Mr. Peterson was his name. When he left the Navy Yard, he started a school of watchmaking. And he took my father with him, and my dad became a teacher at that school. But when Mr. Peterson had events at his home, he would invite my father, but not as a guest. He would
Wow.
invite him to tend bar.
Wow.
So I watched those kinds of things,
Yes.
and the impact that they had on him. He was always very excited about anything that I talked about that had to do with corporate America or IBM or any of those things, because those things were totally unheard of for him.
Right.
So I saw it more impactfully for him than I did for myself. I didn't have the kinds of struggles that some of my friends did. Quite a few of my friends who were were in school. One in particular, my dear friend in Florida, and she was in that situation of going into an all-white school, and just horror stories
Wow.
of the way that they were treated and things that they had to endure. But fortunately, that was not my story. That was not
Wow.
my story.
Wow. Wow. Lynn says she didn't know the story either. She
Yeah.
did, and it's amazing. I'm sitting and I'm like, wow, because that's one of the things that I love to do, and that is to find those stories that
Hmm.
nobody really talked about,
Hmm.
because those people make so big of a difference. Just like I was talking about tonight, the women in history,
Hmm.
we look at it differently, and they made an impact, and we wouldn't have known about it had you not shared, or had we not like saw it on something else where somebody was trying to
Hmm.
get their story out.
Hmm.
There's so many different people that we don't know about.
Yeah, McDonough, the McDonough 19. I think if you look it up, and if you Google it and you simply look up and put in the search, uh, three women who desegregated schools with Ruby Bridges, it
Okay.
will come up. It will come up. Yeah, and they are the interview is there, so you get to hear their voices and
Wow.
hear their story from them, and it's really quite amazing. It's really
Wow.
quite amazing. Yeah.
Well, I know where I'll be going to listen.
Check
But
it out. Check it out.
you were talking about, though, you were talking about your dad, and every time I hear you talk about your dad or see you talk about your dad, you just light up. It's like this light goes on, and I was like, oh, she was a daddy's girl.
Yes, ma'am.
Um, what advice did your dad give you that you still hold on to today?
This is gonna sound funny, but as soon as you said it, I remember exactly what it was. And it may sound funny, it may sound strange, but he used to always tell me, just live long enough. Just live long enough. Because
Wow.
I used to question all the time, why is it? Why is it that way? Why is it that? Why do people say the things they say? Why? I was on the, if they knew better, they'd do better train. you know, what makes people say those things? What makes them do these things? Why is it this way? Why is it that way? And he would always just look at me and smile and say, just live long enough. Just live long enough. And now there are times things will happen, and I find myself standing in a space and staring up at heaven, going, I get it. I've lived long enough. I get it. I get it. Now I understand. I understand.
Oh, wow.
But
Oh,
he taught me a lot about business, about people, about integrity, and those kinds of things. Work ethic, excellence. You know, I remember one day, I'm tell you this real quick. I remember one day my job in the store was cleaning the cases, the glass cases. And then we didn't have Windex and all of that. You had vinegar,
right.
you had water, and you had newspaper. And I would clean the cases. And he came out one day and he looked at them and he said, okay, okay. He said, but what's that right there? And I looked and I said, oh, that's a spot. And he said, mm-hmm, you're not done.
Okay.
And that always gave me the feeling that good enough is not good enough.
You got to go back, check it
You got to
again.
go back. You got to go for excellence. You got to go for
Yes.
excellence. And that has allowed me to get promotions and be in places and spaces I normally would not have been, because my work ethic was so strong. And because people knew that if they gave it to me to do, it would be done well, it would be done on time. And those are things that people a lot of times take for granted in this world that we're living in today. But it
Yeah.
serves you well. It serves you well. Mhm.
Do you think because it's been some years ago that I saw you do like your one woman show where you was there one.
Oh,
Do you think you'll ever go back and bring her back?
I don't know. You know, you're not the first person who's asked me that and asked me to do it again. And actually, I did start writing another one, but I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to really, really think really, 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 really hard.
Oh, I loved it though. I was like, oh my goodness, and then you just draw because you draw us in with the characters because you become that person. And it's like you forget about, oh, that's not Miss A, that's so and so, and you just drawn in. I was like that. It was so good. And I learned so much. You learn stuff because there's like lessons being dropped
Yeah.
during the whole time. So it's like you grab those, you're like, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
It was truly a work in progress. And he gave me, I think I did a work in progress. I did a work in progress. The journey continues. I did a work in progress generations. And
Yeah.
I think that was it. I think I did 3 of them. And, you know, people had their favorite characters and you know, at the time I had to do a lot of dressing up and making up to play grandma. It won't be that hard now. Just slide right on in.
Oh, I did too, Francina. I truly enjoyed them all. The characters, I love them all.
We'll see. We'll see. That's my theater background cropping up. I think that's what that is.
And you, I want because I want. Well, we got some more time here. What advice would you give to the 30-year-old Andrea?
Woo. What advice would I give? I would encourage the 30-year-old Andrea to believe in herself and try.
Wow.
Because I think that we miss so many opportunities and so many things because we don't believe.
Right.
It's not other people.
It's
It's not the people who are around us. People around us can tell. I can tell you you are beautiful from now till the cows come home. I can tell you that you're smart. I can tell you that you have the ability to talk to people and to do things and to make an impact and be a difference maker. I can tell you that. But if you don't believe it,
right.
if you don't see it in yourself, it just falls flat. And you will talk yourself out of opportunities that God has opened up for you.
Yes.
The second piece of that is don't keep putting up roadblocks for yourself.
Wow.
And we do it all the time. Somebody says, now, if I had said to you, Angie, I've got this opening, I've got a station, and I'm wondering if you want to be a program owner, that you want to have your own show. You could have said, I don't have anybody to interview. I don't have the money. I don't have the time. How am I gonna figure this out? How am I gonna do it? And never made a step towards it.
Right.
But you said yes.
Yeah.
And when you said yes, you just stepped out and tried. God filled in the blanks.
Yes, he did.
He does it with me every week.
Yes, every single week he brings something.
With me every week, you know? And we have to do that. We have to take on the mentality instead of asking ourselves, what if it doesn't work, which is what we will do. We got to think, what if it does?
Yes. Yes.
What if it does?
What if it does? What if it does work? That is.
So,
Thank you.
and that is still a battle.
Yeah.
That is still a battle. It's a constant battle. I want to say this, Andrew, before we get off, because I know the time is just about up. Everything is not always going to go well.
Mm.
It's just not. Life has a way of doing what it does,
Yes.
and it's going to present us with challenges. It's going to present us with storms. It's going to present us with tests. We're going to have trials. We're going to have the unexpected. All of those things, all of those things, but we're built for it.
Wow.
When God designed us, He knew. He knew we'd have challenges. He knew the storms were coming. He knew the tests and trials would be there. But so will He.
Mm.
But so will He. So
So will
I
he.
just want to leave that with somebody who may be in a place of self-doubt and about to tip over into self-sabotage. You know me, I'm all about the self.
Yes. All about the selfie.
That's what I go bring back one day. It's that seminar about the selfies. But we have to maintain that posture, of
Yeah.
understanding, of understanding. We
Wow.
we got more than we think. We know more than we give ourselves credit for.
Yes. And Diane Warner, I thank you for joining tonight. Hi, Diane. She's a co-worker,
Oh,
and
hey.
she is on tonight. And Miss A, can you share with everybody how they can get in contact with you, and if they want to get in contact with you? Because she's an author, guys. She got books out there. She has other things. Like I said, she's a life coach. There's so many different things. She goes and she speaks, and she and everything. So we want to be able to get in contact with you. So how would we do that?
I'm a one-stop shop. You can
Okay.
go to AndreaLHines.com, and that website will tell you everything you ever needed to know.
That is great. That is great.
And I do want to say one thing. I give one plug. I'm doing a reading for His Glory on April the 29th here in the Raleigh Durham area, for those who are interested. And I am also celebrating 5 years in broadcasting, which you will
Yes.
be with me and a part of that on June the 10th. So I will be giving you some information to share with your listeners very, very soon so that they can join us on that part of the journey. And they can also reach me at speaklifewithandrea@gmail.com.
There you have it, guys. There is so much more that I would love to talk to Miss A about, which I'm going to try to get her back, y'all, because she has so much. She got so much in her. It's like so much to share with all of us. And I love sitting and just listening to you talk. I was like, there is a calmingness there. It's like I can sit and listen to Miss A all day. And that y'all have her read some of her poetry, because she's a poet too. And for her reading her poetry is calming too. And I'm like, the voice. Because it's like that voice, I'll be like, oh. So we may have her come back so we can hear the voice.
It would be my pleasure, Angie. And thank you again. Thank you so much for thinking of me and for having me on your program tonight with your whole and beautiful nation. I appreciate it, lady. Thank you.
Thank you for being a part. And I'm going to get ready to let her go because, guys, we got 8 at 8 in just a little bit. She'll be right back on here at ALH Broadcasting with 8 at 8. You don't want to miss the encouraging word for the night, so you can get your praise on before you go to bed.
There you go. There you go.
So, guys, I thank you all for joining me. I thank you for being a part of our audience tonight, a part of this big group of my whole and beautiful nation. And then you can join me again tomorrow at 4 p.m. where there will be a replay, or you can join me again next Friday at 7 p.m. I'll be right here. I am Angela D. Oliphant, allowing you to see, to hear, and know that whole and beautiful is not just your destination. It is most definitely your journey. We will talk to you all again soon. Love you guys. Good night.
Good night, everybody.